Leg cramps, strike. Get help from Dr. Scholl's with Legatrin. Unlike Tylenol, aspirin, or even ibuprofen, Legatrin relaxes knotted muscles to relieve painful cramps. Legatrin says goodnight to night leg cramps.
The White House said today that a $50 million emergency aid bill for the homeless is being reviewed, but there are no real objections to it. The White House is not enthusiastic about more spending on the homeless, and in fact it's pretty much felt that way for the last 6 years. This administration believes that local and state governments should be doing more. State and local governments insist they need more federal help. And while everyone's pointing fingers at one another, the homeless remain homeless. ABC's Rebecca Chase is on special assignment.
At first, it seemed a temporary crisis, these people with no place to call home. The churches and religious organizations opened their hearts and soup kitchens and shelters, but they never expected to be feeding and sheltering so many so long. The temporary crisis seems to be permanent.
We're kidding ourselves if we think the private sector and the religious community can take care of the problem.
But whose problem is it, and who's to blame? Experts say, despite the best of intentions, there's been a failure at all levels of government, of past policies that weren't supposed to turn out this way. 15 years ago, public housing was declared a failure. The crime and vandalism that led authorities to blow up this St. Louis housing project still exist in nearly every housing project today. So the Reagan administration quit building public housing, and with the approval of Congress, slashed the federal housing budget by 75%.
The federal government's commitment to providing housing for poor people has just been withdrawn. It's been abdicated.
With rising rents and a shortage of affordable housing, in city after city, the demand for public housing now far exceeds the supply. For example, here in Chicago, there are more than 40,000 people on the waiting list for housing projects like this. Daisy Page has been on the list for 3 years. She is homeless and living in a shelter.
They're telling me they don't have anything. So my child and I are stranded here until they get something.
It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. Then there are the cities and their changing skylines. What the city called urban renewal and revitalization, others called displacement and dispossession. This one Chicago development alone destroyed 2,700 cheap hotel rooms.
So what we had was a whole lot of poor people who were forced out of their housing and into an uncertain future.
The cities have done little to replace the millions of rooms and apartments that many people called home.
Your mayor said he wants this is a high economy city. He wants the poor to get lost.
It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. The deinstitutionalization of the mentally ill was meant to be humane. After the courts ruled that state institutions like this one were doing more to harm than to heal, most of the nation's mental patients were released. They were supposed to go to some 2,000 smaller community centers, but for lack of funding, fewer than 800 were built.
And so the states in many areas have simply turned down their responsibilities for caring for this group of people.
So now, too many of the mentally disturbed wander the street in need of help, in need of a home.
I haven't got no place else to go right now, and I've been walking the streets.
It wasn't supposed to turn out this way. So what we have is the federal government's failure to provide enough affordable housing, the city's displacement of the poor, and the state's inadequate care for the mentally ill. They are all reasons why people are homeless. And while government leaders struggle for solutions, the numbers continue to grow. For a nation of such wealth and generosity, it wasn't supposed to turn out this way. Rebecca Chase, ABC News, Chicago.
When we come back, trying to understand what it really feels like to be homeless.
Dad's bad, Mommy. Daddy's coughing like crazy. Oh, you sound awful.
Give her my cough medicine.
Daddy needs something stronger than that.
When a strong cough comes on, adults need a strong medicine to help turn it off. Vicks Formula 44, the only liquid cough medicines with the maximum strength cough suppressant adults need in every formula for the relief adults want. Formula 44, strong medicine to help turn a strong cough off. From Vicks, of course.
Troubled by bad breath? Then have a Milk-Bone dog biscuit to help scrape away plaque and food particles to give you cleaner teeth, fresher breath. Get Milk-Bone because, naturally, every dog wants fresher breath.
Mom, send $500 soon, or there won't be a honeymoon.
To send money fast, come to Western Union. It'll get to any of our 10,000 locations, usually in 15 minutes or less. Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
In the morning,
in the evening, Carnival's got the fun.
not much money.
But oh, honey, Carnival's got the fun. It's such a good time. We're spreading the news.
'Cause there's just no time like a Carnival cruise.
Sunny weather.
All together, Carnival's got the fun. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
Moms have the neatest way to ease you into things. Like when you were a kid and needed a laxative, she wouldn't give you a harsh laxative. No. She'd say, Mom will make it better. Bet she meant this, Mom. Phillips Milk of Magnesia. M-O-M. And even when you're grown up, Mom gives you easy relief, not harsh. Doctors recommend Milk of Magnesia. See? Mom knows what's good for you. You know, no matter how old you are, nobody treats you better than Mom.
We now know a great many people who have dedicated themselves to the homeless, and almost all tell us that unless you are homeless, you really can't understand. But it's certainly worth trying. The mayor of Atlanta tried not long ago in the company of Ron Saylor, a reporter for our affiliate WSB. Mayor Young spent a night without a home. And here's a brief excerpt of what it was like.
I was a little nervous about people recognizing me. And once I realized that they didn't know who I was, then I relaxed and got in the conversation. I hadn't had much to eat, and that bologna sandwich was good.
So with a sandwich and a few dollars between us, we walk and we walk. Nobody noticed us. Nobody really looked at us. People don't look at the homeless to see if theirs is a face they recognize. To be homeless is to wear a cloak of anonymity. Not many people will ask you your name. Not many people will care. Now it's 2:45 in the morning. The mayor and I find a place to sleep in the city shelter.
I really was afraid of the shelter. I didn't want to go to the shelter. We finally got there. I was so tired, I got my pad and I hit the floor and I was asleep right away.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know about you, but I'm cold. You and I have the option now to go home.
Yeah.
Can you conceive of the reality of not having that option?
No, that's a rough option, and I think that's the thing that makes this acceptable to us. That whenever we really, run out, we have some place to go. But if I had no place to go, and it could be that way. There, but for the grace of God, go I.
As a city official, Mayor Young, do you regard this as a national emergency?
It is when you have, in a city that's as successful as Atlanta, we've generated close to 400,000 jobs in the last 4 years in the metropolitan area. We've attracted $34 billion worth of new investment, and still we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 10,000 people sleeping in our streets. There's something wrong there.
Mayor Young, you surely know the dimension of the problem. What's your best idea for making it better?
Well, what I think we've got to do is find a way to have some sort of job retraining. We've got to line up people with jobs that exist. We find that about a third almost of the homeless that we have here in our city, with about 3 to 6 months' help, we could put them in jobs and houses. We have the jobs, we don't have the houses.
So essentially you're pointing the finger or pushing the responsibility towards the federal government, right?
Well, I wish I could, but I've sort of given up on that. We're right now trying to develop in our city a common bond reserve fund that would give us some capacity to develop housing both for low and moderate income families, but also for upper middle income families. There's a tremendous housing shortage in America, particularly in America's cities. And we've got to find ways to build housing in the central cities of America.
Mayor Young, thank you very much. In tonight's Money Matters, both good news and bad from Detroit. Chrysler said today that its profits jumped 50% in the fourth quarter, and there is surely a connection. Lee Iacocca has signed a new contract. Another 4 years, he'll be paid about